Hello and welcome, everyone. I'd like to start off by saying thank you for tuning in or for looking us up here. Uh, I'm going to have RimWorld running in the background uh, during these streams, but for the most part, we're going to be talking about being a DM in general. We're going to start off with the basics today. If you're ever on the stream or you're ever looking at it and the stream's going live, feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Because any question you have, I'm sure that another DM or somebody learning to be a DM has a question. And that's one reason why I wanted to do this. So, we're going to start off with, like I said, the basics. We're going to talk about the source material. That's going to be your first thing to grab before you've created your world, before all that. Because it would really not be very much fun to create a world and then realize that due to source material that you have available to you, some of the things in your world, you, you you don't know how to properly rule them, if that makes sense. Um, the rules are the key to any good DM. You have to know the rules. You're not going to know them all. Nobody, no one single person will know all of the rules. That's tantamount to an impossibility. But knowing the basics, knowing most of the rules, that is key to being a good DM. And also be aware that if you don't know a rule and nobody else at your table has the information uh, handily available, to just rule on it and then look it up later. Don't stop your session or sit around for 20, 30, 40 minutes trying to figure out one particular rule. That'll slow down gameplay and in general just give you a rather unpleasant situation. Your players won't enjoy it, and as a general rule, it just won't be a lot of fun. So know your rules. If you're implementing any kind of homebrew rules, make sure you have that either written down or at least discussed with the players. So in the case of many, like rogues can reload as a bonus action, things of that nature. Other than that, you'll need your DM guide. If you're not doing your own world, you're gonna need the guide to, or the not the guide, but the book that involves that particular thing. Also, don't be so worried about having all of the different subsets for all the different races. There's many sources for everything you need to know about the races that your players want to do, that your players want to play at. And in all honesty, if they really truly want specialized rules for a particular race that they're doing, there's no harm in allowing them to get the source material. Uh, Ask if they do have some an exotic source material. Make sure you ask to have it for a few days to read it to learn what you can about it. Again, you won't know it all. You can rely somewhat on your players to know rules of that nature, but also don't take their word for it on face value because when you're in a role playing situation, you know you want to win. They want to win. Things of that nature, things like that. And if you don't know the rules, be 100% assured that they will take advantage of that. And even if they're good friends. Also, if you're playing with young children, allow for some rule flexibility. I personally do almost all of my DMing with young children, and my son plays and things like that. So kids of younger ages, they're not going to know all the rules, and be aware of that. So, and never have just children. And if you do, make sure you have an NPC that you've put into place to further the story, because kids will often just sit around and they'll mess around. So, but if try your hardest not to have yourself in there. You are role playing as a DM as every other character in the game. You don't need to do it by interjecting your own character into the story. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Doesn't mean it won't be fun. Um, but be aware that you're not the one doing the role playing this time. You're being the DM. Oh, other than that, have fun with it. And also, don't be at all afraid if a player dies. I know it sucks, and I know it seems like a something you want to try to avoid, but don't coddle them just because they screw up. And also just don't feel bad at all. It happens. There's just bad situations. Either one, you overestimated their power, or you set it up the right way the first time, and then for some reason during your first combat, this is how I found it anyways, you found that it's not, they kind of walked through it, and that sucks. But you just got to kind of get used to it, things like that happening. And take everything in stride. As a general rule, just don't worry about that kind of stuff. All right. So that's the basics.